And secondly, the field is advancing so rapidly that it's extremely difficult for even practitioners to keep up.
Nakima?
I wanted to add one last I wanted to add one last point, which was around the facial recognition technologies that now Amazon, IBM, and Microsoft have stopped or paused selling to law enforcement for that very reason, because they don't have any effective enforcement of the standards that they would like for law enforcement departments to use with regard to matching faces to databases. They've said that it needs to be, in order to take a photo, find it in their database, and accuse someone of a crime, there needs to be at least a 90 or 88% accuracy match, confidence match. And in fact, many police departments are looking up, the girlfriends or the associates or whatever of their personal lives with 33% or 32 or 25% confidence in the match, and then off they go to arrest people. And so if you don't have any oversight from the companies that are selling this software to different entities, and the government is even more in the dark because the government officials have even less information about how facial recognition or any machine learning algorithms work, then you have to really think about whether it's time to roll this out at scale or not, or pause it.
I think that what Dr. Nakima is saying is super critical. And I would like to challenge the panel by saying, can we wait for the government? Policymakers, lawyers, very conservative people, not talking politically. It's about not creating change. It's about, having looked at cybersecurity and technology the last 20 years and more, they will follow and they will help once it's done and hopefully do it correctly, or it will be corrected 20 years later after that and 20 years after that. Beyond education, which is what I call terminology that didn't be used, being not an expert in the field, and beyond waiting for the government or other bodies such as commercial entities to make us do things, is there something else we can do on this? And I'm actually going to turn to Dragos because he has enough time to create his titling. Therefore, I know that he has some time for us. Dragos, please unmute yourself, sir.
Absolutely. So the problems with the streams are now out of my domain. Now my stuff's working. I think that you're absolutely right, Gadi. I mean, most of the policies are going to be about resisting the change, and I don't know that I don't know that we've actually thought about all the implications. The one maxim that I truly believe in is that humans tend to overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term impact of any new technology. As we always think that things will change much more quickly than they do, and then in the end, things change much more dramatically than we'd ever predicted what they're going to do. I mean, specifically in this area of facial recognition, everybody's wondering, well, what do we do? What do we do? Should we adopt this? I think in some ways it's inevitable. The question that we haven't thought about is what happens after we've adopted it? And consider what the point is. We become dependent on facial ID, for instance. We become so accustomed to the fact that you can see this little box that I have turned on here. That's a face recognition software. It's done by a little chip in my camera. And if I do this, it turns off. And the computers don't pick that up anymore. What are the corner cases where that stuff will fail? We haven't thought through. Particularly, consider this scenario. We start using for facial recognition for law enforcement. Whether or not people decide to sell it or not. Eventually,
so Dragos, I'm really
this.
Sorry for doing this, but we are running out of time. And before we go into another example, I'm really glad you got to speak a little bit to bring the technical thing in here. I would like to turn over to Mohammed to see if he can summarize this for us or bring us some sort of insight from academia perhaps, or from personal life with his own project.
So I would say that the problem with AI being malicious is not that AI is intelligent. The problem is that AI will be misapplied, and it is being misapplied. That it's not artificial intelligence, but artificial stupidity that we should be worried about in the short term and also in the long run. That we turn over our autonomy to these systems.
All right. Well, I really appreciate that. Dr. Nakima. Karen,
I
drive
think
us.
ethical impacts is really important, and I really am happy that most of the panelists agreed.
All right then. Well, you all came in and helped us out. I think this was a truly interesting discussion, and I hope we'll have more discussions that are similar in the future. And with